Discover the incredible transformation, how 30 small habits changed this lazy boy's life forever. In the sleepy heart of Maplewood, whispers echoed of a boy lost in the shadows of his own potential. Jake Martinez, at 16, bore the weight of his mother's sacrifices like a heavy backpack strapped too tightly. Every day, he watched her leave for her second job, eyes weary yet determined. And he felt like a spectator in his own life, paralyzed by inertia and an unshakable feeling of laziness. But this wasn't just about him, not really. It was the gnawing desperation to make his mom proud while wrestling with the judgment of others that kept him stuck. It was a rainy Thursday when everything changed. Jake sat on his porch, watching the droplets race each other down the railing. His neighbor, Mr. Thompson, a kindly war veteran with more stories than wrinkles, shuffled over. "You know, Jake," Mr. Thompson spoke gently, "life isn't about taking one giant leap. It's about the small habits you build each day." His eyes sparkled like glistening stars against a dark night. "What if you tried 30 little things? Just start with 1 or 2. Those words slipped into Jake's mind, planting a seed of hope. Morning runs, untangling books at the library, helping out at the local food bank, these were things he once thought unattainable. Yet, like a flicker of sunlight breaking through dense clouds, he felt inspiration bubble within. But when he shared this with his classmates, laughter echoed like sharp daggers. "You think you can just change overnight? You're still the lazy kid." Their voices mocked him, and for a moment, the courage crumbled. He retreated into his imagined comforts, all too ready to abandon the new path before he fully explored it. Yet, the weight of his mother's love and sacrifices knotted tight in his chest, a constant reminder of what he could lose if he didn't try. One afternoon, as he faced the humiliation of his peers, a moment unfolded that would forever alter his course. A fast-talking bully had cornered him, fingers poking into his chest as laughter rang around them. But as he cast a glance toward the entrance of the school, the sight of his mother's hard-won smile flashed in his mind. She believed in him, even when he felt undeserving. Jake stood taller than he ever had before. "Enough!" he shouted, his heart racing, palms sweating. "I'm not lazy. I'm just trying to figure my life out." Silence revealed the frozen faces of his classmates, and for a heartbeat, he felt powerful. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With hopes soaring, Jake realized this wasn't only about proving his worth. It was a way to honor the woman who tilted the world for him. But doubts still lingered, pitting themselves against his new determination. Could he really stand in front of his classmates, bearing his soul? As feelings of dread brewed at home, his bond with his mother faced cracks that threatened to deepen. Even as he took steps to change, could he unveil the truth without losing everything? Jake stood at a precipice, heart racing and breath caught in his throat. The path ahead was murky, but one question remained: would he rise above the noise and find his own voice, or would fear ensnare him once more? The fragile threads of his journey hung in the air, electric with uncertainty. Jake's heart pounded, and he felt like he was standing on a tightrope. The atmosphere in the school hallway shifted, heavy with the weight of his outburst echoing through the silence. For the first time, he sensed he was more than just Jake the lazy kid. He was Jake the person, a son, a dreamer, a changer. But the thrill of that realization was quickly overshadowed by the sharp reminder of what waited at home: unanswered chores and the scent of anxiety hanging in the air, weaving through their small apartment like a blanket too tight to breathe. As the day wore on, Jake felt a shift within himself, but the thrill of his courage clashed with the terror of the unknown. His classmates' surprised faces were etched into his memory like a photo that might fade but always remain significant. Would this new version of himself withstand the pressure? The school bell rang, jolting him from his thoughts. Jake stuffed his books into his bag, each one feeling heavier than the last. He caught sight of Mr. Thompson's garden as he walked home. The flowers were vibrant, a riot of colors fighting against the gloom of the sky. Those small victories known as daily habits could make a world of difference, much like the petals pushing through the hard earth. He imagined himself planting seeds of hope, little routines sprouting into something beautiful. When he reached home, the apartment was quiet except for the faint sound of his mother's tired humming from the kitchen. A wave of guilt washed over him, but determination followed closely behind. He approached the kitchen, where she was preparing dinner, her hands moving deftly, despite the weariness that lined her face. "Hey, Mom," Jake said, finding his voice again. "Can I help with anything?" His mother turned, surprise dancing across her features. She had gotten used to him avoiding chores, but now there was a spark in Jake's eyes she hadn't seen in a long while. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked, eyebrow raised. "Yeah, I'm good. Just with everything changing, I thought I could do something, you know. Help out more." It was a small moment, but it felt monumental. They worked together, side by side, laughter spilling over the mundane tasks as they chopped vegetables and stirred pots. With every stir, Jake felt the weight on his shoulders lighten just a bit more. Maybe he could do this. Maybe he could change. After dinner, they settled on the couch, a familiar comfort. "Mom," Jake began, hesitating as he searched for the right words. "You've worked so hard for me. I want to make you proud." Her eyes shimmered, reflecting back a mixture of pride and love that wrapped around his heart like a warm blanket. "You make me proud every day, just by being you," she whispered. Just then, an idea struck him like a bolt of lightning. "What if we set some goals together? You could help me with mine, and I could help you with yours." His mom's smile widened, genuine and bright. "That sounds wonderful, Jake. We could write them down, make a plan." The bond between them felt renewed, pumping life into both their spirits. But even as hope began to blossom, Jake couldn't help but wonder, would this new partnership hold when faced with real challenges, and would he still have the strength to confront his classmates when they teased him anew? With excitement and apprehension stirring within, Jake thought about the next little habit he might adopt. Would it be running in the mornings? Or volunteering? The possibilities unfurled in his mind, each more thrilling than the last, but one question remained in the air, thick with anticipation: could he keep his momentum alive when life threw him off balance again? Jake woke up the next morning, sunlight filtering through the curtains, warm and gentle, nudging him awake. The excitement of yesterday lingered as he rolled out of bed, ready to embrace this new chapter. His heart raced with anticipation. Today he would take the first step toward changing his life. He remembered the conversation with his mom, how they had talked about setting goals. Today, he'd write down his first goal, to run every morning before school. Sure, it would be tough, but maybe it would help him feel more energetic, more alive. With a determined nod, he grabbed his worn sneakers, proud marks of his past attempts, and laced them up. He stepped outside, the crisp air refreshing his senses. The neighborhood was still waking up, houses standing quietly as if waiting for the day to unfold. Jake took his first steps, feeling the pavement underfoot. With each stride, he felt lighter, like he was shaking off the remnants of who he used to be. It wasn't easy. His legs ached, and his lungs gasped for air, but determination fueled him onward. He ran past Mr. Thompson's garden, the vibrant flowers cheering him on, reminding him that even the smallest things could grow against the odds. Jake finished his run panting but smiling. A rush of adrenaline coursed through him, mingling with the thrill of accomplishment. He was sweaty and breathless but utterly satisfied. Back at home, he burst into the kitchen and was greeted by the smell of pancakes, his mom humming another tune as she flipped them expertly. "Mom! I ran!" he exclaimed, unable to suppress his excitement. "Wow, that's amazing, Jake." Her eyes twinkled with joy. "How did it feel?" "Hard. But good. I think I want to keep doing it." "Of course. I'm proud of you for trying." She grinned, pouring syrup generously over the pancakes. They shared breakfast, laughter weaving through the delicious smells and sounds, creating a scene so familiar yet enriched with new warmth. As the school day approached, Jake noticed a flutter of anxiety creeping in. What if his classmates mocked him for being different? Would they laugh at him for trying to change? He felt a tight knot in his stomach. But this time, he remembered the thrill of yesterday. His confidence surged like a rush of wind. After he stepped into the bustling hallway, his heart raced again. Voices buzzed around him, and for a moment, he felt small. But he was determined to hold on to that spark of courage, the one that bloomed inside him during breakfast. Jake recalled the flowers he'd seen while running. Colorful blooms sprouted from dirt, reminding him that beauty could rise from unexpected places. "Hey, Jake." A voice rang out. His classmate Jason approached, flanked by a few others. Jake's heart dropped. Jason smirked. "Did you actually run? You think you're some athlete now?" Jake opened his mouth, ready to retreat, but then he remembered his mom's words. "I'm trying to be better," he said, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "Better at what?" "Being a joke." Jason's friend snickered, but Jake stood taller. "Better at being me," he retorted, feeling the energy shift around him, a wave flowing in favor of his newfound resolve. Jason looked taken aback. There was a brief silence. For a moment, it felt like the hallway held its breath, waiting for what would happen next. Jake felt a rush of something. Was it pride? Relief? Jake knew he wasn't perfect, and he had so much further to go. But today, he had taken a step, both on the pavement and in his heart. Maybe facing fears wasn't as terrifying as he thought. But as the day wore on and thoughts of what tomorrow might bring crept in again, a question echoed into his mind: would he have the strength to stand up for himself when the challenges turned heavy? Jake sat through his classes, his mind wandering back to that brief confrontation in the hallway. The sting of Jason's words had faded, replaced by a resolve he didn't know he possessed. Every time he thought of backing down, he remembered the laughter shared with his mom over pancakes, the promise of a better version of himself blooming like those spring flowers. At lunch, Jake joined his friends at their usual table. They talked about weekend plans, the upcoming movie release, the game, and who would win this time. But despite the noise around him, Jake felt a distance, a bubble forming between him and the laughter. He hesitated before leaning into the conversation, unsure of where he fit. Suddenly, the cafeteria doors swung open, revealing a teacher ushering the new student inside. Her brown hair fell loosely around her shoulders, and she had an inviting smile that instantly caught everyone's eye. Jake watched as she introduced herself: Claire. She seemed nervous but held a quiet confidence that reminded him of his own recent boldness. "Hi, everyone. I'm Claire," she chirped. "I just moved here, and I'm excited to meet you." Her cheerful greeting was met with nods and a few smiles, but Jake noticed the hesitation in the room. Everyone was caught up in their own world, just like he often was. Later, while everyone continued their chatter, Jake felt an urge to reach out. He remembered how hard it was to be new, to feel like an outsider. Taking a deep breath, he stood. Surprise rippled through the table as he approached Claire. "Hey," he said, feeling the tremor of uncertainty in his voice. "Welcome. I'm Jake. If you want, I can show you around the school after lunch." Claire's eyes lit up, relief washing over her face. "Really? That would be great. I've been a bit overwhelmed." They exchanged smiles, and suddenly, the bubble that had wrapped around Jake started to dissipate. Sharing experiences kindled a connection. They talked about their favorite books and music, finding common ground as they moved through the hallways after lunch. For the first time in a while, he felt seen, not just as Jake the runner, but as a friend. As they navigated the school, Jake's heart fluttered with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He never thought stepping outside his comfort zone would be so fulfilling. Here was someone he barely knew, yet in helping her, he felt empowered, stronger. Then, in a quiet moment, Claire looked at him thoughtfully. "You've got this energy, you know. It's like you're ready for something big. Her compliment sent warmth flooding through him, chasing away shadows of self-doubt that had lingered from earlier. Just as Jake was about to respond, Jason and his friends appeared, lingering nearby, eyes darting between them. The air thickened, expectancy building like a wave about to crash. Just the kind of moment that made Jake's stomach twist. "Look who's playing tour guide now," Jason sneered, but this time there was challenge mixed with mockery. "Isn't that sweet?" Jake's palms began to sweat, heart racing as he glanced back at Claire, who was still smiling, unbothered by Jason's jibe. "Yeah, I'm showing her around," Jake replied, trying to mask the tremor in his voice with confidence. "Maybe next time you could join us, Jason." Before Jason could retort, Claire quickly added, "Running is great for stress relief, by the way. You should try it." Jake inhaled sharply, astonished at her boldness. The unexpected turn shifted the atmosphere, throwing Jason off balance. As Claire laughed, it felt like a barrier broke inside Jake, revealing a power he had merely touched before. He was growing, learning to confront his fears, and here she was, supporting him, making him feel both seen and capable. As the bell rang, and they walked off together, Jake's heart swelled with possibility. He wondered, could this small moment of bravery shape a new friendship and change how others saw him? The unexpected thrill ignited a thought. What if the next step he took was about more than just running? What if helping others, just like he had done for Claire, became part of his journey too? And as Jake pondered this, he felt hope spreading inside him like gentle sunlight breaking through cloudy skies. But with this feeling blooming, there was a question lingering in the back of his mind: could he keep up this momentum when the pressure rose again? The next few days passed in a blur for Jake. He kept looking forward to seeing Claire, the way her laughter echoed in the hall, the way her eyes lit up whenever he showed her something new at school. They had become a dynamic duo, tackling lunch lines and locker combinations together. He realized how much her presence brought light to his days, but with the excitement also came the familiar shadows. When Jake ran into Jason in the hallway, the taunts returned, creeping into his mind like unwelcome weeds. "Look who's got a crush," Jason would laugh, nudging his friends with that stupid grin. Each jab felt like a punch to the gut, the laughter from Claire sometimes blending with the tension that hovered around him. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves on the bleachers, watching as the team practiced in the downpour. Claire was animatedly talking about her old school, sharing stories of her friends. Jake wanted to maintain the energy, to let her know he was not affected by Jason, so he laughed it off. "You know," he said, smiling despite the knot in his stomach, "I might not be the best runner, but I could have given your school's track team a run for their money. Might even beat them in the rain." Claire chuckled, her laughter ringing clear, cutting through the throb of anxiety. That was the moment he realized how much he wanted to protect that smile, to make sure Claire felt as welcomed here as he was beginning to, but deep down, anxiety still lurked. It made him wonder if he was truly strong enough to stand up for them both if Jason pushed harder. That worry gnawed at him, even as he encouraged Claire to join the cross-country team, sensing this would help her feel more at home. "You're going to love it. Think about it, running clears your mind," he said. He struggled to sell the idea, but he meant it. Racing along those sun-dappled trails had always felt like freedom. Later that week, as they met at a nearby park, Claire seemed uncertain. "Jake, I don't know if I can do this." Her voice was small, the eagerness replaced by hesitation. "What if I trip, or I'm just not good enough?" Her vulnerability struck a chord in him. He had faced those exact fears, every day, battling the voices from Jason and deep within himself. Remembering her earlier encouragement, he decided to take a leap. "You know what?" he started, feeling his heart pound. "I trip sometimes too. It's not about being the fastest. It's about getting out there and trying. I'll be right there with you." The determination in his voice surprised even him. A flicker of resolve illuminated her face, just for a second, then, Claire nodded. "Okay, let us do it together." As they both took off down the path, something shifted in the air. Jake felt lighter, like the weight of the conversation had shifted onto the asphalt beneath their feet. They ran, laughter spilling over into the space between them, creating a bubble where nothing could touch their budding friendship. But the next day, the bubble would burst. When they returned to school on Monday, Jake found Jason waiting at the entrance, a crowd accumulating around him. As Jake stepped in, prepared to defend not only himself but Claire too, he wondered if he was ready for the storm that was about to break. Could he stand firm and protect what he had started with Claire? And would she still feel safe by his side when the storm hit? Jake took a deep breath. The air felt thick around him as he stepped through the school entrance, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. A small knot twisted in his stomach at the sight of Jason, who leaned casually against the lockers, flanked by his usual crew. The laughter from the crowd felt like a chain, pulling Jake down. "Look who decided to show up," Jason sneered, his expression mocking. "The lovebirds are back in town." The taunt slithered into Jake's mind. He was still processing the joy from running with Claire, and now that joy felt threatened. But he couldn't let Jason win. Not when Claire was beside him, relying on him to stand tall. "Let us just get to class," Jake urged Claire quietly, willing himself to sound calmer than he felt. He clasped her hand and they started walking, but his heart raced as he felt the weight of Jason's gaze burning into his back. "Doesn't he look like he could barely keep up with a snail?" Jason called out, laughter erupting from his crew. "Are you sure you want to run with this loser, Claire?" Jake's heart dropped, but he felt Claire squeeze his hand. "You know, I was never one to let bullies get me down," she said, turning to face Jason. "You're just a sad little boy looking for attention." Jake blinked in surprise, his eyes widening at her unexpected burst of courage. He could hardly believe she'd spoken out so boldly. The slight smirk on Jason's face faltered momentarily. "Maybe you think you're something special, but trust me, everybody knows you're just another freak, Claire," Jason shot back, but the venom seemed to bounce off her words. Jake felt a spark of pride. It felt so good that Claire had badly wanted to stand up for herself and for him. "Why don't you just focus on your own miserable life, Jason?" Claire retorted, and Jake couldn't help but smile at her fierce spirit. She was right. They wouldn't let Jason dictate their happiness. "Okay, come on, let us get out of here," Jake said, glancing at Claire, who still looked shaken but determined. As they moved away from the crowd, he whispered, "You were amazing back there." "Thanks," she replied softly, but he could see the uncertainty still flickering in her eyes. "Do you think he'll just keep coming after us?" "I can handle it," he assured her, but the truth was far less certain. Would facing Jason be worth it when it could mean Claire feeling unsafe? During lunch, they sat together at a table in the corner, picking at their food while they casually joked about everything from teachers to schoolwork. But the laughter was often interrupted by furtive glances towards Jason's table. Each look was a reminder of the battle they'd just fought. "Maybe we should just stick together," Jake suggested, his voice low. "Like a team. If he comes at us, we don't let him get to either of us." Claire nodded, visibly relieved at the idea. "I like that plan. We'll face it together, no matter what." Their pact felt solid, warm. Like a shield they could hold up against the world. But as the day wore on, the clouds outside thickened, shadows creeping further into their optimism. As they walked out of school, the rain began to pour again, turning the pavement slick and reflecting the dim light. Claire hesitated, looking up at the darkening sky, uncertainty clouding her expression. "Do you think we should run?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake took a step forward, feeling the rain soak through his shirt. "Yes," he said, feeling the comfort of their earlier run. "Let us run. It's just us against the storm, right?" But as they stepped into the downpour, a distant shout echoed through the chaos. Jason's voice rang out, cutting like a blade. "You can't run away from me, you know that." Jake turned, his chest tightening as he saw Jason emerge from the school, storming towards them with a determined look. Would they be able to outrun him this time? And would running be enough? Jake felt a surge of adrenaline rush through him as Jason's commanding figure advanced like a storm cloud chasing them down. Goosebumps prickled his skin, and fear coiled in his stomach. He tightened his grip on Claire's hand, hoping it would reassure both of them. "Keep running," Jake whispered urgently, but Claire froze, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "What if he catches up to us? I don't want to face him alone." Jake's heart sank. He couldn't let Jason bully her. They had just started finding their strength together, and now it felt so fragile, as if a single gust could blow it all away. They weren't going to be just another target. "Look at him," Jake said, nodding toward Jason. "He wants us to be scared. Don't give him the satisfaction, Claire. Just keep running." He felt his voice growing stronger, more resolute. "We'll be faster together." With a quick look toward the oncoming storm of jabs and insults, Claire finally nodded, determination flickering in her gaze. They took off, sprinting side by side, the rain drenching them as if nature were joining their fight. The cold water mixed with their shared thrill, pushing them faster, pushing away the fear, but Jason was relentless, his laugh echoing through the pouring rain, mocking and filled with anger. "You really think you can just escape? You don't know me." The words pierced through the pounding rain, and for a moment, doubt crept back into Jake's mind. But Claire wasn't having it. She shot a glance back over her shoulder and shouted, "We're not afraid of you, Jason. You don't own us." That was it. It sparked something deep inside Jake, a wave of confidence that raced through him. He could feel the weight of their shared experience lifting the burden of fear. The world became a blur, laughter mixed with the sound of rain, their hearts pounding in unison. They rounded the corner of the school and headed toward the nearby park, where the trees offered them a sanctuary. As they reached the cover of branches, they both slowed, breathless and laughing, exhilarated by their escape. "Did we really just do that?" Claire asked, her eyes dancing with disbelief and excitement. Jake chuckled, feeling an unexpected warmth blooming in his chest. "Yeah, I think we did. And we did it together." For a moment, it felt like a victory. The clouds overhead still rumbled, but they had fought back against the fear, pushing through together. It was liberating, a first step toward a new kind of strength, but that victory was fleeting. Just as they began to catch their breath, a shadow loomed over them, dark and menacing. Jake's stomach dropped as Jason appeared at the edge of the tree line, dripping wet and fuming. "Running away only makes you a coward," he spat, venom dripping from his words. Jake's heart raced again, but this time it was not just fear. It was also anger at Jason for trying to belittle them, for not understanding the bond that had formed between him and Claire. "Maybe you're the one who's lost, Jason," he retorted fiercely. "We don't need your approval. You don't scare us anymore." Claire stood tall beside him, her expression fierce and unwavering. Together, they faced Jason, standing firmly rooted in their shared determination and newfound confidence. But as the storm raged on, thunder booming above them, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they hadn't seen the last of Jason. Would he push them again? Would they be able to stand together no matter what was coming next? In that moment, surrounded by the chaos of the storm and Jason's fury, Jake realized that this was more than a physical battle. This was a fight for their spirit, their right to be who they were, free from the weight of someone else's judgment. But behind Jason's furious expression was something deeper, something Jake couldn't quite decipher. Would he learn to back off, or was there more to this struggle than just an angry bully outside a school? And as the storm crashed around them, the real challenge awaited. Would they be prepared for what came next? The air was thick with tension as the three of them stood under the stormy sky. Jake could feel the crackling energy between them, a storm of its own brewing, not just the one overhead. Jason's eyes narrowed, calculating, as if the mere presence of Jake and Claire together was a challenge he couldn't ignore. "Think you're brave, huh?" Jason sneered, stepping closer, his voice dripping with derision. "You're both just kids playing at being tough. You don't know what real fear is." Jake clenched his fists, resisting the instinct to step back. The ground beneath them felt unstable, but they were no longer afraid to stand their ground. He took a deep breath and met Jason's gaze head-on. "If you think we're afraid, you've got it all wrong," Jake replied, his voice steady. "We're done being scared of you. You don't define us." Claire nudged Jake lightly, her confidence shining. "Yeah, we're not going to let you bully us anymore. We've got each other. That's more than you'll ever have." For a moment, Jason faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. But it lasted only a second. The anger returned, hotter and fiercer than before. "Just because you're together doesn't mean you're strong. You think friendship is enough? I'll show you what real strength looks like." Without warning, he lunged forward. Jake's heart raced. They had to be quick, decisive. He pulled Claire back behind him, instinctively shielding her. "Run!" he shouted without thinking. "We can't fight him here." But Claire shook her head, refusing to budge. "No. We're not running anymore. We've faced him once, we can do it again." "Are you crazy?" Jake snapped, eyes wide. "He'll hurt you." "I'm not afraid of him, Jake." Claire's voice rose, filled with unwavering conviction. "We've got to stand together, not just run." It struck Jake then the raw power of unity. She was right. They had spent so long hiding and running, this was their chance to confront the fear head-on. In that moment, he made a choice. "Okay, then. Together." With a deep breath, they faced Jason as a united front. Jake could feel the rain mixed with sweat, the adrenaline pumping through their veins. For the first time, they weren't just kids trying to avoid a bully, they were a team. Jason approached, surprised by their defiance. "You think it's going to end like this?" "I'm just getting started." "No, Jason," Jake said firmly, voice unwavering. "It's ending now. You don't have power over us anymore. We're done being your targets." The words hung in the air, like a challenge echoing through the storm. Jake could see Jason weighing his options. Was he going to back down, or escalate things further? But then, a sound broke through the chaos, loud and clear above the storm. A shout, followed by laughter. They turned as a group of classmates emerged, their faces lit with surprise at the scene before them. "What is going on?" one of them called out, frowning at the gathering storm of confrontation. Jake felt a rush of hope. This was it. Their peers were witnesses now, and that made all the difference. Before Jason could respond, a powerful voice rang out. "Back off, Jason. You're not going to ruin their moment," another friend said, stepping forward. Jake's heart soared. Suddenly, he didn't feel so alone anymore. With every new face that joined them, a sense of strength flooded through him. It became a collective stance. Everyone knew the weight of fear and the liberation of standing together, but would Jason still lash out, feeling cornered? As more voices joined in, chanting encouragement, Jake wondered if this would finally be the end of Jason's reign. Would their solidarity be enough to break the cycle? And as the storm raged on, they stood ready. Could this surprising alliance change everything for Jake and Claire? Or was Jason only biding his time, waiting for the right chance to strike back? Jason's eyes flickered with something between anger and panic. The crowd was thickening, drawing together into a formidable wall against him. There was power in numbers, and he had underestimated the strength of unity. For a brief moment, he hesitated, glancing from Jake to Claire and then to the cheering classmates. The realization of his isolation began to sink in. Every derogatory remark he'd ever thrown had stripped away his own support. All he had now was the growing sense that he was in the spotlight, and he didn't like it. "Fine," Jason growled, but Jake noticed the tremor in his voice. "You think you're safe because you've got backup? You think this makes you strong?" He scoffed, trying to regain his composure, bristling with fading confidence. "We believe in each other," Claire replied, voice steady and calm. "That's what true strength is about." Not intimidating others or throwing punches. With every word, Jake could see the shift. The crowd of classmates were not just passive observers, they had come together, sharing the same conviction. They stood shoulder to shoulder, friends mixing with unfamiliar faces, all united in the understanding that no one deserved to be a target. The murmurs of support rippled through them, building like waves crashing against a rocky shore. Jake felt buoyed by this newfound strength. "We're not afraid anymore, Jason," he declared, every syllable laced with determination. "It's not just us. It's all of us. Together." The crowd echoed, fists pumping into the air as if they were one living entity. The rain, now pouring down, felt more like a cleansing, a baptism of courage washing over them, washing away the fear that once bound Jake and Claire. Jason's bravado had begun to waver, his bravado cracked like treasure surfacing to the shore. He took a step back but quickly masked his uncertainty with a sneer, trying desperately to regain his control. "You think this means anything? You all make me sick," he spat, the bravado fading into what felt like desperation, but they weren't swayed. Laughter and cheers erupted, drowning out his words. Then, to everyone's surprise, one of the other classmates, Marcus, spoke up. "You've been running this show for too long, Jason. Maybe it's time for you to take a back seat." Gasps were heard among the crowd. Jake's heart raced with excitement. Could this truly be happening? Jason, feeling more isolated than ever, gestured angrily. "You'll pay for this," he barked. "Maybe you'll pay for your choices," Claire shot back, voice cutting through the storm, resonating with the strength of the group. The crowd roared in support. Suddenly, something changed. The tension thickened, electric like the storm clouds above. Jason took a step back, glancing around as the reality of his isolation dawned on him. He was outnumbered, and it was sinking in fast that his reign of terror was unraveling. With a furious glance at Jake and Claire, Jason turned on his heel and ran, disappearing into the downpour. For an instant, silence fell over the crowd, shockwaves of disbelief coursing through the air. It was done. The storm began to dissipate, but the energy remained. In the pounding rain, Jake and Claire caught each other's eye, a mixture of relief and triumph washing over them. They had faced their fear, they had found their strength not just as individuals, but as a community. They didn't need to run anymore. Suddenly, someone broke the silence. "What do we do now?" A voice rang out, buzzing with anticipation. The question hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Jake looked around at the group, and a smile crept across his face. "Now, we celebrate. Together." And just like that, the tension transformed into joy. Joy that resonated with each heartbeat, as they began to laugh, cheer, and dance in the rain. But even amidst all this relief, a nagging thought pressed against his mind. Would Jason come back? What if this wasn't truly over? Jake looked for Claire's reassure, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. Would they be ready for the next round? The days after the storm felt electric, charged with a newfound spirit that Jake had never experienced before. Each morning brought the light of possibility, teasing him with the promise of who he could become. Alongside Claire, he felt invincible, like they had crossed a threshold into a brighter world together. The school atmosphere shifted, thickening with warmth and acceptance. Students who once whispered behind Jake's back now smiled at him, exchanging nods like they were all part of an unspoken alliance. Even Mr. Thompson noticed the change, his eyes glinting like a proud father. "You've done a fine job, Jake," he said one afternoon as they worked together to clean up the community center. "You've found your voice. Keep speaking." Jake was riding a wave of courage, buoyed by the support around him. He thought of his mom, who had silently fought for him all this time. He wanted to show her that her sacrifices weren't in vain. So he resolved to do just that. Every small goal he set became a step toward honoring her love and strength. One Friday afternoon, after a long week of running, studying, and building friendships, Jake gathered his courage and made his way to the kitchen. "Mom!" he called, excitement bubbling in his chest. She raised her head, wiping her hands on a dish towel, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "What is it, honey?" "I want to throw a barbecue this weekend. Just us and a few friends." The words poured out before he could second-guess himself. His mom blinked, catching him off guard. "A barbecue? But Jake, that's such a big step." His heart raced. "Yeah, but it's time, right? You've always worked so hard for me. I want to bring everyone together to celebrate the change in our lives and how far we've come." Tears brimming in her eyes hinted at her gratitude. "I'd love that, sweetheart. Let's make it special." As the weekend approached, Jake felt the urgency of time rush through him like wind beneath his wings. The backyard filled with laughter, the smell of grilled burgers wafted through the air, and the warmth of the community enveloped them all tightly. Friends trickled in, some were familiar faces, while others were surprises like Claire, who arrived with a homemade pie and a radiant smile that lit up the evening. Laughter danced through the air as they shared stories and memories, each moment weaving a tapestry of connection. Jake stood back for a moment, watching everyone mingle. In that scene, he felt weightless, the pressures of the past evaporated into the laughter and joy surrounding them. "Hey!" Claire called over, beckoning him closer. He grinned, eager to join. "Let us show everyone our victory laps." Jake laughed, unable to suppress the rush of excitement pulsing through him. They raced around the yard, the thrill in their hearts palpable. The cheers from their friends echoed, growing louder and more infectious with each lap. Were they truly racing? Or was it a symbol of how far they had both come? For the first time, Jake felt part of something bigger, a sense of belonging that melted all the loneliness and fear away. This was family, laughter, acceptance, everything he had yearned for. As night fell and the group gathered to roast marshmallows under a blanket of stars, Jake took a deep breath. The warmth of the fire flickered against their faces, the conversations lulled into a natural rhythm, and within him, a steady drum beat of pride pulsed louder than ever. "Mom," he began, standing up as everyone quieted down, "I wanted to say thank you for everything. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." She looked up, tears pooled in her eyes, a smile spreading across her face. "I wouldn't be here without you," he said, glancing around at Claire, Mr. Thompson, and all his friends. "And it's not just about me anymore. It's about all of us, working together." When he finished speaking, the glow of gratitude filled the air, and applause erupted like a wave, washing over him. The laughter he had once feared now felt like a soothing balm, a true testament to his transformation. The bonds they had forged went beyond that moment. They were a declaration of strength and resilience, but even while joy floated effortlessly within him, Jake couldn't shake a last lingering thought. Would Jason find a way back into their lives? Would there be more storms to weather? Jake took Claire's hand, squeezing it reassuringly. Together, they had proven that they could face anything that came their way, a unity that no rising tide could break. "Whatever happens," he whispered to her, glancing at the stars above, "we'll always have each other." They smiled at one another, souls intertwined like the constellations dotting the sky. In that moment of silence, beneath the stars and surrounded by friends, Jake realized the journey had changed him forever, not merely by conquering fear but by learning the true essence of love, support, and friendship. They were more than strong enough for whatever came next. They were ready. As the night drew to a close, with a sparkling feeling in his heart, Jake knew he had blossomed into a life that was rich and vibrant, leaving shadows behind for good. So why wait any longer? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.